let's talk about prep.
We've touched on this in private conversations before, Corey, and you're definitely big time prep, and I am the lazy GM.
Ooh, you're like me.
I will seat of pants a lot of shit, and that's why I absolutely love pre-gen, minimal work on my end needed. I can just read up on what's the next part and go.
I'm similar to you in that very much in favor of seat of the pants style. I give myself a working outline, rough outline, what I want to see happen, what challenges they're roughly going to face, and basically let it play out from there. And depending on where they get to with certain points or whatever, I may change what needs, like what the end goals become or whatever, because well, they went in a different direction, and prep is definitely something that I am very bad at doing.
I actually kind of blame Cyberpunk 2020 for my game mastering style, because it was my primary form of game mastering when I was first getting into game mastery. And that's a lot of it is, okay, you have a fixer, give your characters a job, and then you sit back and see what the fuck your characters do. That's how Cyberpunk is supposed to be ran, and you react to what the players are doing.
Yeah.
And you have set pieces, but that's it.
Yeah.
Like you tell, we need you to go steal this prototype from this place. And then you have the set piece of that place. But how the players decide to go in, what they decide to do, how they go about going in there for that set piece, they could try bluffing their way in, like the one shot that I ran for Corey, Howard, and Tarek, where there was 2 rocker boys and an infiltration expert. And the 2 rocker boys just rocked up at the place and said, let's party with these people.
I love it.
I mean, how can you plan for that? You can't. You got to just roll with it.
Yep.
So I'm very much in the Cyberpunk way of game mastering in everything I do, where I'll have, okay, here's a set piece and a goal for the players. What are you doing? Here's your goal. Here's the set piece. What are you doing?
I will lift little bits here and there out of pre-done adventures, but I don't. My inability to prep makes it worse with pre-done adventures, because I want to read it all and see what it's got set up, but I just don't.
Yeah, I have to admit,
ooh, this is neat. This is neat. This is neat.
I have to admit, in this is the biggest campaign Cyberpunk has ever put out, and we've made it through chapter 1, which means we've reached to about there so far in the book.
Yeah,
and I've read to there.
The best reason to do seat of your pants, lazy, technically lazy, but I mean, it's more like seat of your pants. You're coming up with things as you go. You're leaning on old things that you've already thought of a long time ago, maybe things you've already put in a game earlier, and you're kind of reusing that, or things you've found in other adventures, and you're sliding that in at appropriate times. The cool thing about that is you can have more of an open world kind of thing where players can go anywhere and you can be nimble enough to start creating as you go. Like the Fog of War moves with the players and reveals the world as you go, you know?
That's exactly it. And I'm a world building junkie. I have spent years building these different settings, including the one that we're or many of the facets of the one that we're playing in right now, where I've taken just built these different sides, factions, whatever their motivations, their history, all these bits, and then afterwards I sit back and I go, "This is really awesome. Now what can I do with it?" How?
Yeah,
What
I've
kind of
made
an adventure can I give people to actually interact with this?
at this point I've made 6 different fantasy worlds, one sci-fi, another one that is a space opera, and a Western world that were all world building things that I did. And out of them, I've used one fantasy and the space opera, the Western, and the sci fi setting because I created those worlds specifically for the game I was going to run.
Yeah.
But my current fantasy world I'm working on, I went back and grabbed countries from every single one of the previous 6, histories and other things, and just went like, you know what? I made the calendar for the first world, and that calendar's good enough.
Yep.
Pop it back into this world.
Oh, I liked this country that I built over here, and some of their stuff. It would interact really nicely with this country that I built for this other world, and we can really make that get that attention.
And take this concept and that idea and this culture and this thing and that. And now I have a world that has 33 separate countries, 2 separate conflicts going on, 4 zones that are not countries and are unaligned, 12 factions that aren't a part of any one country, etc., etc. And where I'm currently stalled out is trying to get the theology.
I'll help you with some theology. That's my bag.
I'm totally different from both of you guys in the way I go forward with gaming. I first think of like a story I want to tell. Right? I want to tell a story about
more plot threads.
Yeah, I want to tell a story about this, or I want to tell a story. I want to tell us like a spy story. You know, I want to tell a story about princes and politics. I want to tell a story, and I start from there, and I try and figure out who are the heroes, and of course the PCs are the heroes, but who is on the hero's side? Who's on who's the villains here? Who's caught in the middle? Who's just like the pawns? They're not actually on either side. The evil wizard wants to do something, but there are goblins in your way. Why? Who put the goblins there? Are they there by chance? Did the evil wizard manipulate them into getting there? And while my world isn't totally open, right? I'm not railroading. I try not to. What I like to do is make little boxes, right? And within that box, you can go wherever you want and interact with the adventure how you wish. But all of the pieces are there, right?
Yeah.
And you can interact with them and figure out what the plot is and follow the plot threads doing that. And yes, if you walk away from the plot, I'm not going to have a new one for you. You have left the game. That is the game over. That is like if you played a video game and you're like, well, I don't want to go save the princess. I don't want to move constantly forward and jump on the mushroom guy. Then you turn off the game. That's what you did.
Well, you mentioned railroad on there, and you say you don't try for that, and I agree, you don't. There are roads.
There are.
Just
definitely.
And I like that analogy more, though I have to admit, generally when I'm starting out, those roads do have fences initially. Yeah, you can hop the fence if you really want to, but you see the fence and see where the road is. And there's often a neon sign going, plot over here, plot over here, and try to get everybody back over to it and then move on to the next set piece.
Sometimes those side tracks can find their way back to the main road, because it's really easy to forget with bigger plots that people other than the PCs are doing things. Right?
Right.
So if you've got event X where the local baron is in 1 week's time will do this thing.
Perhaps the event is going to be At the next full moon, because it's an auspicious time for executions, a certain ship captain's going to be executed. If the players don't get there and get the sentence commuted or break this captain out of jail, they don't get to use his ship and actually get to go to where the big dungeon thing is to save the world.
I'm not going to give the PCs a month to get back to figuring out what the Baron is doing and have that not have happened yet. From there, and maybe they'll still abandon it and say, well, screw you, I'm going over to the next country. But, it's not railroading. You can bring it back around.
Yeah, consequences for ignoring where the plot's going.
So every couple of years, I always hear a story from some gamer somewhere. Now they're coming across Twitter, Tumblr, whatever. Every couple of years this happens, where somebody thinks they've done something novel. They've done something novel. The players have walked away from my plot, and I have created big side plots for them, and they've gone through, all of these different things where they have tried to do their own kind of thing. And at the end of all of that, the evil Dark Lord takes over the universe because they didn't do my plot at all. The world is now into darkness because my world kept on ticking and the players didn't want to interact with that. So, and they think they're so clever about this, but I think that's taking it a little too far.
You need to have little pokes to go back. Like, if that captain gets killed, okay, they still have to find his diary then to find the route to that dungeon to save the world.
Maybe that captain has a wife and kid in town that the PCs know, and Little Johnny is really worried about his dad in the Baron's jail. So, could you guys please rescue my dad?
Yeah, give.
There's ways
instead of constant punishing the players, start hitting them with more and more and more reasons to do the thing that they actually would want to do.
On one hand, I think ticking time clocks are a good thing that keep players motivated and moving forward. On the other hand, I think if it's on the altar of your story, if you've made a great story and you really want your players to enjoy that, let them do their side quest. And when they come back, like the pre-rendered QuickTime event that you want it to happen still happens no matter what time or day, or just because you were grinding for levels in the forest, when you reach the king in your Final Fantasy game, he still has the exact same dialogue.
You can still work it depending on how flexible the players are willing to be as well. But I mean, like, if the players are just throwing roadblocks at you, then sometimes you need to kind of throw some of those extra consequences too.
There's a couple modern games today where side quests are built into the game. In 7C, you have player stories. In Cypher, they want you to have player stories as well, where you can gain extra XP from that. In
L5R with the Gearies.
L5R with the Geary. And I use those Geary to motivate you guys and get you really involved in searching through the plot. Because if I just put a plot in, a lot of times you're just like, let's see where this goes. I don't want to get involved too much. But if I give you like a mission from your lord that must be done for glory points, you're suddenly like, oh, I'm freaking gung-ho. I want to do it. I'm there. I want, who has that secret message? Does this guy have this secret message? I pick his pocket. I pick that guy's pocket. Suddenly, stuff is happening.